big round of applause to Terry Johnson.
We live in a world so sick, it's almost incomprehensible. We talk about living in the land of the free, but fear is our ruling concept, not freedom. There's too much being done to society and all our nations at this point for me to keep denying the impact it's going to have on my generation and the future of our world. I'm not very bold, but if I don't say these things, there might not be another chance for someone else to. We all know our world has come to be a sick place full of pessimistic people, and we all wish we could do something about it, but have accepted that we have no power. We see these issues clear as day, yet instead of wanting to be the change, we expect it to change on its own, or we have already accepted we've been condemned to fail. You either let the others take action on it and take care of the issues we can all see, or you refuse to see that change is needed where it's due. This is detrimental to the young. You are adults. You should know better than the youth when something is acceptable or not, and if it's benefiting your lives. It's easier when you're older to figure out the things that do and do not work. You have a way better understanding on what our world is becoming and what we face 30 years from now. Kids don't even have a conscience to be worrying about that type of stuff. And I only do because I realize the rest of us are going to when it's too late. Humanity is becoming so selfish and disconnected. People are losing sight of what matters. Proper morals, proper self-identity, proper self-respect, integrity, and respect for others. We all have a full understanding that the world has become an unethical, fraudulent place. Us kids can't do anything to help us ourselves when you've got the power, the rights, and the voice to make an actual difference. Kids aren't taken seriously enough, and not enough of you are stepping up to say the words we need spoken for us. Our recent pandemic and the isolation we all experienced during those arduous times was an opportunity to gauge our success, not by how many rolls of toilet paper and pounds of macaroni we could accumulate, but by clearing our minds of the worn-out concepts that led to our crisis. You had time to rethink your approach to greed and selfishness, the environment, work, and material success, and to reposition your perspectives in a more holistic way. I kept hoping enough of us would have realized how important it was, being we had all the time in the world to work on ourselves, but still, we have so many people acting blind to it all. You know very well the situation we're in if we don't acknowledge it. If we keep accepting the world for what it is, saying, it sucks, and we have no control over it, it'll be as it is. Nothing changes. Things can't get better without change. If you're an adult, unhappy, bothered, or unsatisfied with the world and society's views, you need to be stepping up and showing us kids we can do something about it. This is an awful example, but think about seeing a missing kid poster. Now think about if every person in the world saw it differently, and in the correct light, there would be no more taken kids, no more intentional crime or selfish actions of any nature. People wouldn't have it in them because that's morally wrong, and we'd know that. But we can't change how people think. None of us can. It doesn't mean we have no control over who we are and what we allow to be accepted in ourselves and our lives. To you, that might just be a missing kid. It's unfathomable there's someone evil enough out there to take a child. You get a reminder of how awful people are and think it doesn't affect you past that, yet it really does, because humanity being bad is a reflection on all of us. If you have that part of your mind that knows not to do one thing because it's morally wrong, but still give yourself excuses in everyday life to do bad things that benefit you, it's a reflection on you too. You gave yourself an excuse, and that affects you in the long run because we all have to live in this world, whether it's filled with good or bad. It comes down to the fact that we can live good lives in a happy world, one in which we have everything we need to make possible, and if we didn't, a voice to fight for it, or we can keep being lazy, looking past real issues, and keep living in a dreadful world, one that's only destined to get worse. You have to realize we're at a point in our existence where we cannot keep making excuses. I'm talking to you. I feel a lot of you are responsible too. How can you talk about bad things happening in the world and judge others' wrongdoings and hope for change, but then swear at your kids, cut someone off in traffic, be disrespectful, impatient, or short with people? he gave himself an excuse, same as you did. We're all adding to the melting pot. You're not better than anyone else, not better than people considered criminals. We're all playing the same game, making excuses and having reasons for all our wrongdoings. It shouldn't be like that. We lie to ourselves about being good people to make ourselves feel better for our wrongdoings. I'm not saying you're not good people, but I'm saying you don't resist doing things that make you bad sometimes. Us kids watch tons of our parents do it every day. A lot of our minds give us reasons as to why it's okay to do wrong things, and we'd rather take that than miss out on tiny things to keep our morals straight. You may not even see your actions as bad because it's human of us now, to ignore the part of our brain that knows what's right, which you are because you know the world is wrong, and I don't see enough of us, especially adults and role models, trying to make it right or draw attention to it. How can we kids do better for our world when we think you guys have no problem with it? We accept it as vile. It's what we were born into. You were born when people still knew true compassion and emotions. Nobody told you how you were supposed to feel because you had your own outlook. We have our phones. There's only so far we can see with a phone blocking half our vision. We learn a lot from the influence on that device, the propaganda that's fed to us by the people behind those social media platforms, mass media, and stereotypes. We're broadcasted farces they want us to be like every day. How are we supposed to stay true to ourselves? We're taught by each other that it's totally normal to give our bodies away at 13 and sexualize ourselves. We're conditioned into thinking if we're not attractive or presenting ourselves as what society wants, we have no worth. We kids don't recognize any of it as wrong. Our minds are so corrupted we find toxic relationships more desirable than healthy ones. We romanticize the darkest things. We don't know the word selfless. We think we're depressed if we don't have a significant other at 14, and if we do, we'll change our entire persona to be what that person wants. We're told in school it's okay to keep things from our parents and go against you if we don't agree, which we agree with. We spend more time on technology than with our families, more time at school than at home. We'd rather order food than cook our own meals or spend any time learning valuable skills, apart from what we feel forced to in schools, which I don't think is enough to set us up for our lives. We don't have the mental development you've already had. We're gullible and naive. I watched my friends go from playing with Lego and Uno to snorting lines off the same tables we played on. I've watched them lose the potential they once held by popping their brain cells without a care in the world because it makes them feel good, then go home and tell their parents we watched movies and ordered pizza. I've watched them all lose respect for their parents because they're convinced you mean wrong and are stupid for knowing better. They think you want to control us, not look out for us. They don't know. The way we see is so morphed from what it should be. We're the most entitled generation I've seen. Lying is second nature. If we have a lie or backup story to fall onto in times we want to do wrong, we'll do wrong without a second thought. Anytime we have an issue or intense emotion or hard period in life, we label our coping mechanisms as mental illnesses and find the medication to stop ourselves from feeling, stop our personalities from further developing. We're proud of those labels. We identify with them. We've been forced to accept people as cats and dogs and that genders are not a thing anymore. We'll get personally offended if people say anything we don't like or agree with. And the most important things, the things that bring us young happiness, and the things we use for relief when we are not, are things adults could never imagine, never mind find acceptable. If you knew the perspectives kids really saw from, and could see through their curated lies that tell you otherwise, which we're better at than telling truth, you'd be terrified too. None of those things are even true or important. We're being taught to disconnect from everything important and connect to things that will never fulfill us. But because we've never had any better type of fulfillment, we'll keep accepting what we're given as the best we will ever know or get. I say we because I'm an adolescent, but I do not identify with the way they think or live. I've been living a very different life than the kids around me and been amongst kids who are still very stuck in their ways. I've seen firsthand what's happening to them from a clean mind. Without them knowing I felt any different because it's practically a crime to have your own opinions. If I did, I wouldn't have friends. It's not all kids, but the majority I've met in the last couple years have been pretty deep into some not great things. The one thing that's always consistent, no matter what perspective these kids have, is that none of them see any of it as wrong. The lying and disrespect, the constantly being disconnected and embedded in a phone, The lies fed to us we believe without any consideration for the truth. The voids they don't realize won't be filled with external things. None of them see. This is their lives. If we refuse to listen to you adults who can see it, how are we ever going to accept we've been conditioned and thought wrong? You have to really try now. The more years go by, the deeper us kids get into bad things, the harder it's going to be to show us the truth and let go of the things they attach to their happiness. There's another big problem adding to it though. Young people want to learn. We learn a lot off of how you see as our parents. If we don't think you're doing anything, we won't either. Why would we even want to confront the truth and corruption if we feel we can't do anything about it if we could? It's easier to be in denial than live knowing the truth and not being able to do anything about it. You are our parents and role models. We want to be like you. We want to learn from you. You know the world was a better place 20 years ago. You knew perspectives were a whole lot clearer than they are now. You know a piece of bliss from your childhood that this generation will never get to know. A piece of history that shouldn't be history. Us kids born in the 2000s, we just know today. We don't know as well as you. You know the potential people would hold if we all wanted to be good. Remember your childhoods? What it felt like to walk around without the crazy standards, resentment, and fear that you might not have a world to grow up in 10 years from then? You didn't have that tenseness you can almost feel in the air we have in public today. That's the thing. We are young. The happiest world we've lived in is this one, in this time. You adults know happiness in a way we'll never get to feel in our lifetimes if we keep letting our world, our sights, and humanity fall apart like this. And we most certainly can't create a good world for ourselves after you guys are gone, when we've never lived in an actual, genuine world. We have nothing to look back on and say, we want our world to be like this. You do. So the impact you have on us when being negative about the situation we're in and not doing anything to change it due to some excuse you've given yourself or because we don't have control leaves ripples. You're the ones who know best. We see that type of behavior coming from you as parents and think, well, if mom says she has no control over it, how could I? If mom says she can't solve it, how can I? Mom knows better. If dad can make an excuse, why can't I? We're not stupid. We are naive and impressionable. The idea that we have no control over bad things sets us up to never want to try. Brains and development doesn't come undone. Our young perspectives and views affect us and who we are for the rest of our lives. I wish I could fix all the issues with humanity myself, and I don't mean to sound like I expect adults to figure it out for us, but you're the ones who shaped our world for us as we continue to shape it for the next generations. Adults are the ones granting power where you know it's not deserved, to the people who you know don't have good intentions for all of us as people. We give power to the ones who misuse it, power to the ones who teach us to see these perceptions, and keep doing nothing about it, because, oh, let me guess, we have no control. But we've got everything to make this world flourish and be full of genuine happiness, lasting happiness. You're the only ones who can change it, but by not doing anything and accepting the world for what it is, you're failing yourself, because you're accepting you're going to live in a doleful world forever, giving my generation the excuse not to do anything either. I'm tired of being the only kid who sees it and sees what's wrong. If you're an adult and you can see any of the negative impacts on us, and you see the overall way humanity's going, which I know you do, because I, a 15-year-old, can see clearly. If you see and you dwell and make excuses as to why those problems can't be fixed and continue to live like those problems don't exist, at least don't teach my generation those issues are not there. Because the most dangerous thing for a messed up society is for them to be blind to the fact that they're messed up. And you know ours is, but a lot of us kids don't. This is our normal. Someone has to tell the rest of my generation it's not, because we're going to run ourselves into the ground if you all aren't shown the situation we're in, especially the kids. If we continue to let it be messed up and live miserable lives, we're leaving miserable lives to all the people who come after us. Every single one of us are going to be responsible for the ultimate collapse in humanity and coming collapses in our world, unless you realize your voice matters and there's a billion things you could be doing to change it. I could name a ton, but this speech is about the kids. Why would the whole world put effort into changing for the better if the kids, the future of our world, have such a flawed sight we're going to ruin all the progress you've made when we get older? And this bad in us progresses even more. One of the main things being that you need to talk to your kids. Teach them what's important and what's not, in every way you can. Show them that you love them because we've been taught to think you don't. Teach them about the deceptions that taught them that. Teach them what brings true happiness and what doesn't, what's ethical to do and not. Teach them to be good people, honest people. It matters now more than ever. I'm watching my generation already beginning to fail the one after us because of how fast they're losing sight of things. If we stay like this, and we keep accepting the truths we're given as kids, we won't even be able to think for ourselves. We'll rely on Google and everyone else for answers. We're so much less as young adults and people and lose the potential to be because we're consumed with things adults know are pointless, but yet are allowing other adults to put it into our heads through social media, social standards, trends, taught and shown of changing. But if the kids don't, we're going to be responsible for ruining the lives of everyone coming after us because we're creating a bad world for ourselves. I believe it's critical now. I had a conversation with someone my age the other day. I told them that I didn't agree with how they saw things. I didn't agree with doing bad things intentionally, and I'd seen a lot out of them. They told me that the world is effed anyways, and there's so many bad people already, so why would they even try to be good when no one else does? That proves my point. If we don't see change in others, we won't change ourselves, even if we know we are wrong. And how many more see it the same way as that? It shows me how dire our situation is. Kids are already losing the motivation for the right things. We have to prove anyone with that mindset wrong. We've got to make them want to be good, want a better world for themselves, the ones around them and the ones after them. We need you to teach us better. Teach us what our world is meant to be so we can all strive towards that. That's when we see change. We cannot change others, but we can change ourselves, and if enough of us do that, teach our kids to, and get others to, then we will see a change. The main thing I'm trying to say here is that I've seen enough from kids my age to know we won't open our eyes for ourselves, and we're setting ourselves up to fail. At the rate we're going, if the youth were the only ones on this planet, it would have already imploded. We need our parents and role models to help us learn, whether we want to see and hear it or not. I was terrified to come up here today, and if it was a year ago, never would have had the guts. No matter how important my words were or what difference they'd have made, I would have let fear get the best of me. But over the last 6 months, I've been aching for this chance, knowing how important it was for people to hear, and somebody needed to do it. It's very... It's very important to hear what I'm saying now. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't. We want to see change in the world. We have to be showing the kids, the future of our world, we can be that change. Thank you for listening.
Thank you guys. This is our young generation.